Hello, welcome once again to the J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me on this artistic journey. And today we'll be working with colored pencils. So you'll need your number 2 or HB pencil, kneaded eraser, and some good quality colored pencils. Color drawing can be can be very exciting. I know when I was a kid, I always hated color. We'd do a drawing, and then my teacher would always say, well, color it, and then I'd color it, and it would look muddy. It would look terrible. The reason for that, and nobody told me this till later in my life, and I didn't really understand that, is that pencil, when mixed with color, the pencil always wins. It'll make your colors muddy. And so the drawing that we do with this number 2 pencil, we got to get rid of it before we color. So I'm going to show you a technique that I came up with that is both drawing with the number 2 pencil and then coloring without having those mix. All right, so again, what's important is our composition. Make sure this is big. Some of you are still stuck doing stuff right in the middle of the page. You want this to take up the entire page. So you come up to the top and you say, well, okay, his ear extends up in there. Maybe if his ear was clear up in there, and then his head is going to be down here, so maybe I want his head about down in there, and his body is going to come down and touch this side over here. So I started out with his head, and then you see his nose. His nose is almost triangular, not quite, but almost. Right down at the bottom of the circle. His nose should be about down in there somewhere. There's an eye right there, and there's an eye about right in there. Right in almost the middle of that circle. Not quite, off to the side a little bit. The ears are kind of almost triangles. There's one right there. One right. Coming off his nose, if you kind of almost straight come off his nose, not quite, you have to curve just a little bit. It's about right in there. Big ears. So again, we're just establishing where things go. Not trying to be perfect here, just simple shapes. Simple shapes. Then you can always add a little bit. Here's a little leg down here, just kind of a little curve. And really, as long as you're getting the gist of it, you're going to be fine. So you want it fairly large. Leave yourself a little bit of space for the grass and stuff that's over here. We do need a little ground. Not a ton, but a little bit. You don't want his legs running off the page. I'm going to just put in his nose as kind of this little oval right there. You see more of this side of his nose because his face is kind of curved. So you'll see a little more curve here and a little straighter on the front. And it's not so important to erase things right now because everything that's here is going to get erased. So once you've established your size, you can, if you want, do a few little details like in his eye. His head is probably the most important part. We call that the emphasis. So you could add some areas to it, but don't be too detailed here. And now we're ready for color. You need some dark colors and some light colors. When you look at an object, you may want to kind of find some local color, the color that you actually see. And then you may want to add some colors, maybe colors that you would like to see. So I'm just going to open up my colors. I've got 24 colors here, but I want to only pick out about 8 or 10. This is called a limited palette. You do that so that all your colors are going to be unified. And when you mix colors, you're going to get other colors anyway. So we don't need white. We do need some dark colors. We'll probably need some black. So I'm going to pull that black out immediately. Now I need something dark. What's the next color that's dark? Probably purple, or there's a blue. So sometimes you'll get colored sets that have indigo blue in them. Indigo blue is very dark. So I've got blue and purple right there. And now you're going to need a red. There's different reds in there. There's one called mahogany, which is kind of a red-brown. And that one might be a good one to use. I don't know, fire engine red. I don't really see a fire engine red, so I'm gonna go to this red orange that's there, and maybe some orange. But if I had a yellow orange, that might be even better. So looking around, up there's a yellow orange. Now we've got the colors that we see, but maybe we need some colors we'd like to see. So I've got this aqua green. I think a little bit of green in there might be nice. Aqua green. And lastly, there's this kind of purpley red. It's called magenta. Purpley red. That leaves me with 8 colors, and that's probably perfect. So I've got magenta, aqua green, mahogany, red orange, yellow orange, blue, violet or purple, and black. And I think those will be just fine for me. Now, there are some very dark areas, but there's some kind of mid-tony areas that aren't as dark. So instead of starting out with black, I think I'm going to start out with purple. And I'm going to kind of act like this purple's black, but I can also get my midtones in there. Just like in ink, just like in everything else, we're not going to draw a line around things. And there are some light areas, like this white on his chest. We may want to just leave that out completely, just like we do with ink. So I'm just going to start top to bottom, and I'm going to draw this as if this purple pencil were like an ink pen. You can start wherever you want to start. I'm going to start in his ear up here at the top and work my way down. Little dashes. Dots don't work as well here, but kind of like that. So just little dashes. Remember, we're doing fur, so that feathered line is very important. Little dots and dashes. Here's some little dashes along where his ear goes. Some of these other little hairs are so light, I just want to put just a couple to tell me where that edge is. Just a few. Like that. So if we were to get rid of our graphite, just like we did with ink, that's what we end up with. Okay, it's just like ink. So just any of the dark areas that you see. Here's his eye. It's just hard to see even. The bridge of his nose is very light. Just leave it out. And then I'm going to pick it up down here at the bottom where the tip of his nose is. Shade that in with my purple pencil. And just picking out the darkest areas. As if it were ink. Cool thing about this, though, is that you can use a little bit of pressure and make it light, or lose the pressure and make it light, or add some pressure and make it a little darker. My eye was over too far, so now I've got to move it over a little bit. But that's okay, because we're going to get rid of that. Nobody's ever going to know I messed up. Except I just filmed it, so. I always leave a spot of light for the pupil, that highlight that's in there, even though sometimes you don't see it. If you leave it there, it's just going to add that little bit of life. Here's the top edge of his head. I mean, just a couple little dots and dashes and you got it. So hopefully in the back of your mind, you're still thinking, gosh, Mr. Lowe, this is just like drawing with ink. It really is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you try to get in as much as that information, just like when we drew with ink. We're going to be layering in colors, so a lot of this stuff will kind of dissipate, will be gone. And I like to get rid of my graphite as soon as I can. So I'm going to take my kneaded eraser. I'm just going to go over his head. I'm going to get rid of all the graphite. And I'll be left with this kind of ghost image. Kind of reminds you of ink. But all my edges are in there. You know, some of my shadows and darker areas are in there. And I can refine it and get it better. And again, that edge that's really light out there, just keep it light. Maybe a couple little dashes, little, you know, and then that's it. Also, if something isn't quite where you wanted it to be, this is a lot easier to cover with other colors than had we used black. Black is hard to cover. Black is one of those things that if you need it, you can put it in, but usually you kind of wait to the end. So black can be very overpowering sometimes, so you got to be kind of careful with it. But purple, you can cover purple with lots of different colors. It can go with reds or with blues. Here goes the rest of my graphite. I just want to get rid of that graphite as soon as I can, because that graphite's going to mix with our colors, and nobody wants muddy colors. And you're left with a nice little image of your drawing of what you want. And now we're just going to layer in colors. And you can start with whatever you want to. I guess I'm going to start with the mahogany, because I see a lot of that red-brown kind of stuff in there. So I'm going to just start with this little bit of mahogany. If you see it and it's a little more light, you may want to add just a little in there and then leave some area for other colors. Because this is a fox and it's furry, very soft. I don't know if you've ever felt a fox pelt. They're very, very soft. And so you want to leave that kind of light line on the edge to make it feel lighter. Just in the back of your mind, you're layering in colors. But you don't have to sit there and color like you do with colored pencil or coloring books. We're not filling in spaces. We're creating textures, we're creating values, forms. And we're just going to layer in color like crazy. Sometimes you can just say, well, I want that color in there. And just put it in there. But think value, lightness and darkness. That's what's important here. So if it's dark, you can layer in that color. You can leave a couple little splotches around the edges if you want. It doesn't have to go everywhere. Just where you want it. If it looks like I'm scribbling, I am. Controlled scribbling. You kind of put it where you want it to go. Your edges become very important. So you could like some of this area that's down in here, I can scribble and it doesn't matter which direction I go in. I can just scribble in some of that color. But when you get to the edges, do that feathered line so that you have that nice soft fuzzy look. This is where the edges get important. The other question I get asked a lot is, how do you know which colors to use? The best answer there is I don't. Usually I just kind of look and go, okay, what do I see? What do I want to see? How do I feel? And go from there. But color's not important. Value is important. My lines are also trying to go the direction that the fur flows. So it gives it that kind of a fuzzy feel. Maybe some of that orangey red now would look nice. And I can go over the top of some of the colors I've already put in there if I want to. So I am not worried that the orangey red is mixing with the purple, and nothing there is worrying me. I'm going over the top of everything and just adding color. You can add as much or as little as you feel like you need. And hopefully you get the idea that as we layer in colors, our object is going to kind of come out. It's going to pop out. And that whole idea that you had when you were in grade school, or maybe even junior high, of drawing an edge and then filling it in with color is totally false. This is a much easier, much nicer way to draw. And hopefully, when we're done here, you'll rethink drawing with color. Now I've got this aqua green that his neck right here is very cool color. I see a lot of purple in there, but I want to see a little aqua green in there. So I'm going to start a little bit of aqua green. I'm going to start with his nose, just around the edges especially, but you could go through the whole thing if you wanted to. I mean, it's totally up to you. And that little bit of green kind of cools it up. And I'm just going to throw a little bit of this in, not everywhere, but just here and there. Just wherever I think I would like to see it. And if I go over the top of that with a little yellow, it'll turn more green. If I go over it with some more purple, it'll turn more blue. And you can just kind of put it wherever you feel like putting it. I mean, there's no set rule here, other than you got to have your values correct. And just scribble that in wherever you feel like you'd like to see it. Now, hopefully, you're looking at it, you're feeling pretty confident that everything is kind of where you want it to be, it's kind of how you want it to be. But now you need some punch. You need to have that thing jump off the page. And the way that that's going to happen is with contrast. So we can either go back into it with some purple or blue. I'm going to do the black right now, and then I'll layer some purple and blue on top of the black. Black by itself is not real beautiful as a color, but it does help us to get our contrast. So I'm going to just go in. I'm going to start with the eye, just because the eye is very important. And I need that contrast. I need it to pop. So just a little bit here and there. There's not a ton of black. There is a little bit. So just where I think I need that black, you can go over the top of the purple. You can leave some of that purple out. Like this edge right here, I wouldn't need any black in there. It's just not that dark. But just here and there, I might need a little bit of black. Maybe even up in the fur, just a little bit. Little of those little flecky lines, those feathered edges, those feathered lines. But this is going to make my contrast and my picture just pop off the page. Like I say, you only need it here and there. And I'm giving it some pressure where it's really black, like around the eyes. You want to give it a little bit of pressure. Make that black really, really pop. See what that does for you? It just increases that contrast and makes your object kind of come off the page. There's plenty more that we're going to be doing with the colors. A little bit in his nose. I'm going to go over the top of that purple, over the top of the blue. Maybe leave a little bit of that blue poking out there. Might even go back into it with some purple. He's got black little whiskers too. If you wanted to put in those black little whiskers right now, you'd probably be okay. Later on, you may want to put them in. So if you put them in now, you might have to put them in again or just go over the top of them. Just a few here and there. It's all about texture as well. To help define that front edge, where it's really light right there, I just threw a couple little whiskers coming out of there. So I just skipped a little bit of light there and left those. As we color into those, they might get lost a little bit, which is okay. See how that makes it pop? Then as we layer more colors into it, hopefully they'll go over the top of that black and enhance the black and make it even better. A couple little dark areas in there. You could just throw in some of those feathered lines just ever so lightly. Just need a few. Just to increase that little bit of darkness that's there. this is still almost like drawing with ink. One thing that's going to help it to get to kind of unify these colors and kind of bring them all together is that yellowy orange. You may even want to use yellow by itself. So I've got that yellow orange now, and I'm just going to go over this. I've got all these colors. I can almost just start kind of blending them all together. And on your edges, you may want just a few little lines. And that's going to warm that up. Orange and blue are complementary colors. So any blue that we have in there, the orange is going to pick up on it. If you go over that, it'll give it kind of a gray, green kind of a tone. So you're going to start mixing colors over the top and be kind of amazed by what kind of colors you can get out of this. Go over that eye. I'm going to keep that little spot of light in his eye as much as you can. Any place that you see a little bit of warmth that looks kind of orangey or yellowy, you can add a little bit of that. I can see up in his head, right up in here. I'm going to need some yellow. So there's two different types of yellow in your kit. There's kind of a lemony yellow. There's one called golden yellow. I'm going to pull that one out because I can see already that up in here I'm going to need some of that. And that golden yellow, even over the top of that orangey, it's going to just be nice. See how nice those eyes look with that little bit of yellow in there? Makes them kind of come alive. And the more color you add, the more you kind of look at it and go, oh, gee, I like that color. You know, I'm gonna scribble in some of that color. And you don't have to have it everywhere, just wherever you feel like it should go. And at this point, I'm just basically scribbling in colors. My form is good, my composition is good. It's like your cake is done. Now you need frosting. Just throw that frosting in. I need some blue in there, especially right under his neck, right in there. So I'm going to throw in the blue. Blue on top of the black, on top of the purple, on top of the aqua, on top of the orange. Wherever you feel like you need it. I know it kind of feels like his little nose is white, but it's really not. It's blue and purple. That little dark area that's in his chest, going to get some more blue. Wherever you see that blue, or where you think you see that blue, or it might even look gray to you, you can throw a little bit of that in there. But don't be afraid to leave some out. If it looks light, go ahead and leave it out. One of the last colors I'm going to use is the first color I did, which is purple. There's my purple. I'm going to go back into it, back over the black, over the blue, over the orange. Some of those areas need to go a little darker, and purple is my color to do that with. The cool thing is, too, some of these colors start to build up, and they kind of reject the purple. So you'll get little purple edges on things, which is totally okay. The purple with the yellow are going to end up looking gray, because yellow and purple are complementary colors. All those textures, all those values that we got in there. And our face, our head is the most important thing here. All this we can fudge with. We can scribble that in. But try to get this so it looks just right. Once you get the head done, even if you don't have your reference, you could probably get the body in. The head is hard to do without a reference. So now this purple is starting to interact with all those other colors and just creating a real pretty kind of a rainbow throughout our art piece. Remember, we're not creating a photograph here. We're creating artwork. The idea is to make your viewer, your audience, see what you see or what you want to see. It's communication. Also, your last kind of layers of color that you put in there, you're really pressing kind of hard, and that's going to mix all those colors underneath. And hopefully you've kept your edges enough that it looks soft and fuzzy but colorful. Last thing you want to do is sign it. A good place for your signature is right there by his paw. You know, we never have enough time to finish one of these, but you guys can finish them on your own. So again, you're just adding in colors and things that you feel like you want to have in there. You want to add a little bit of ground in there too, maybe a little bit of grass or something there, a little shadow, something, so he's not just floating. You don't want to ever have your subject matter floating in there. But whatever you do, I hope you have a lovely day, and that somehow this has made your life a little bit nicer, a little more pleasant, because I always say that art makes life better. And hopefully this has made your life just a little better, a little nicer. And I hope you have a lovely day.